Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Eruvin. We are up to Perik Zayin Mishnah Bet. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilun Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Ranbayev, Neriyahu ben Burcha Israelov, Menuchatam Began Eden, Amen. The Mishnah continues its discussion of two courtyards that are separated by a wall. Kotel Sheben Shte Chatzerot, if a wall between two courtyards, Gavoa Asara v'Rachav Arba is 10 tfachim high and 4 tfachim thick, which in this case there is no opening in the wall. Me'arvin Shnaim, the residents of the two courtyards may make two independent eruvs. Ve'en marvin echad, but they may not make one common eruv because the wall completely separates the two courtyards. Now the Rav explains a wall of any thickness is enough to separate the two courtyards and require two eruvs. The reason the Mishnah mentions that the wall's thickness is 4 tvachim is only because it's necessary for the next case. Hayu berosho perot. If there was fruit on top of the wall, elu olin mikan ve'ochlin ve'elu olin mikan ve'ochlin. The residents of both courtyards may climb on top of the wall and eat the fruit. Ubilvad shelo yoridu lemata, provided that they do not carry any fruit down into the houses of the courtyard. Since the top of the wall is 4 tefachim wide and at least 4 tefachim long and 10 tefachim high, like the Mishnah said that the wall was 10 tefachim high and 4 tefachim thick, it qualifies as its own reshut yachid. Therefore, carrying on top of the wall itself or from there to either courtyard is permitted, but carrying from the top of the wall down into the houses of the courtyards is prohibited because the top of the wall is not included in either courtyard's eruv. Now our Mishnah follows the view of the Tanaim recorded in chapter 9, Mishnah 1, which is the accepted halacha, who maintain that items that were present in a courtyard at the beginning of Shabbat may be carried from one courtyard to another, even without an eruv. It's only carrying them from a courtyard into a house that is prohibited. Now the top of the wall qualifies as a reshut yachid, a private domain, and therefore is similar to a courtyard. And therefore, the fruit that was present on it at the beginning of Shabbat may be carried on top of the wall, and from there into the courtyard on either side. It may not, however, be carried from the top of the wall into the houses of the courtyards. Now, if the wall is thinner than 4 tefachim, it is too narrow to be considered a private domain. Instead, it's a makom patur, an exempt area, from which transfer to any area or the reverse is permitted. And therefore, if the wall was less than 4 tefachim thick, it would be permitted to carry from the top of the wall even into the houses of the courtyards. Nifrotz hakoltel, the Mishnah continues, if the wall was breached, meaning part of the wall collapsed, ad 10 amot, up to the length of 10 amot, me'arvin shnaim, the residents of the two courtyards may make two independent eruvs, v'im ratzu me'arvin echad, or if they want, they may make one eruv, mipnei shu kapetach, because the breach is like an entranceway, and since an entranceway is a common part of a wall, the partition remains valid. Now, an opening in a wall can be considered an entranceway only if it is up to 10 amot wide, like we learned in chapter 1, Mishnah 1. A wider opening is considered a breach, not an entranceway, and therefore, since it is common for a wall to have an entrance in it, as long as the opening can be considered an entranceway, even the open part is considered part of the wall, and for this reason the wall serves to divide the courtyards despite the opening in it. Yoter mikan, however, if the breach is wider than 10 amot, me'arvin echad, the residents must join in one eruv, then marvin shnaim, but they may not make two independent eruvs. Now we know a breach wider than 10 amot is too large to be considered an entranceway, and therefore it invalidates the partitions. Therefore the courtyards are considered one area, and if the residents want to make an eruv, they must all join in one eruv for both courtyards. Once the opening is too wide to be considered an entranceway, the open part is simply open and does not divide the courtyards, and they therefore must be treated as one courtyard. And that is the end of Mishnah Bet. Mishnah Gimel now discusses how a ditch can be a partition between two courtyards, similar to a wall. Charit sheben shte chatzerot. If there is a ditch that separates between the two courtyards along their boundary, and whoever can see the diagram in the Art School Elucidated Note 1. Amok 10 ve'achav 4. Now we said if there is a ditch that separates between two courtyards and it is 10 tefachim deep, and 4 tefachim wide. Marvin Shnaim, the residents of the 2 courtyards may make 2 independent eruvs, then Marvin Echad, but they may not make 1 eruv. A ditch this size completely separates the 2 courtyards since it's considered a wall, 10 tefachim high, between them. Therefore, they may join only in 2 independent eruvs. Now, the ditch is a valid partition only if it's 10 tefachim deep, similar to a wall which separates between the courtyards only if it's 10 tefachim high. But unlike a wall, the ditch must be at least 4 tefachim wide, because if the ditch is less than 4 tefachim wide, it's easy to step over, and therefore it's not deemed a partition. Afilu malek kash oteven. The Mishnah continues that this is so even if the ditch is filled with stubble or straw. Now, although the ditch is filled in, we assume that the stubble or straw is being stored there temporarily and will eventually be removed. And the commentaries explain because we assume that the owner will remove the straw and stubble to use as food for his animals. The separation between the courtyards that is created by the ditch is still considered to be in place. Therefore, it does not invalidate the partition. Male afar otzrorot. However, if the ditch is filled with earth or pebbles, marvin echad ve'en marvin shnaim, they may make 1 eruv, but they may not make 2 independent eruvs. Since the earth or pebbles will likely remain in the ditch is considered filled in and no longer creates a partition between the 2 courtyards. However, if the owner expressly stated that he plans to remove the earth and pebbles, they too would not invalidate the partition. And going back to the original case where the owner did not expressly state this, they must be regarded as one, and the 2 courtyards cannot join in 2 separate eruvs, again because we said the earth or pebbles will most likely stay in the ditch, and the ditch is considered filled in and no longer creates a partition between the 2 courtyards. And that is an Abotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.